Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I'm, as always, your host, Air the Ohio Patriot, and this is the first stream of 2024 on the network's YouTube page. For today's episode, we're going to talk about two different topics today. One being the recent quake that happened overnight in Japan, which was terrible, obviously. And the other one is anti-gunner hypocrites, and by that I mean these people that will sit there and be like, well, I'm a gun owner too, so you can't actually say shit about me. It's like, bullshit, I can't, lady. Or bullshit, I can't, dude. I can say everything I want about your ass, being a hypocrite. When you're trying to directly infringe upon my rights to own something, or anyone else's rights to own something, yeah, you're a scumbag anti-gunner, no matter how you look at it, man. You know, doesn't matter how you slice the pie, you're still a piece of shit, is what it is, honestly, dude, for real. But yeah, so anyway, we'll talk about that. I'm obviously wearing the MAGA hat for a reason today. I'm debating about doing a new series on this channel here in 2024 called Mega Hat Monday. I'm seriously debating about that. I'm not sure if I'm going to do one or not, but yeah, I figured I'd wear the MAGA hat, though, because, you know, what we're going to talk about with the anti-gunner woman has to do with the whole left-wing, right-wing narrative, agenda, etc., etc. But basically, the problem with her, this one we're talking about right now, which we're going to get to here in a minute, is she'll sit there and act as if infringements aren't that, and then want to bitch and moan about gun rights and stuff like that after the fact. And I guarantee she's never actually read the U.S. Constitution. Neither has any of these oath breakers that are in the various positions of power right now, because if they had, they would understand that specifically when you actually read the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And you notice how it says bear arms, not bear guns? There's a reason for that, obviously, because we're supposed to be able to bear all arms, whether that be grenades or RPGs. On our Founding Fathers Day, it was fucking warships loaded with cannons, etc. You know? And here it could honestly be tanks with munitions in them, or it could be planes. F-16s, F-15s, whatever the case be, loaded full up with some missiles and stuff, you know? Or hell, it could even be the government kind of weaponry is what it is there. That's like the super experimental jets and stuff like that is what it is, man. Or even the UFO tech they got behind closed doors is what it is there for the last, 60, 70 years now is what it is. So, but yeah, technically it's supposed to be anything that the U.S. government has access to, the American people should also have access to that thing is what it is, in some way, shape, or form. So we've been getting infringed upon for decades now is what it is, dude. For almost a century, actually. With specifically the National Firearms Act, 1934 is what it was, which is going to be hitting 90 this year. So, and it's the one leftover remnant, obviously, of the most infringing time in this country's history, which was Prohibition, when they banned alcohol. And why did they specifically hit full auto back then? Because you had a bunch of gangsters, whether it be Al Capone or somebody else for that matter, Bugsy Siegel, those kind of guys is what it was, that were using these kind of guns to do criminal shit. So instead of going after the criminal, they attacked the right. And then, of course, they did it again during Reagan's administration in 1986 with the Hughes Amendment. They also did it in 1968 as well with the Gun Control Act of 68, there's what it was, which is basically led to sterilization of all firearms in this country, and why you have to go to background checks, FFLs, and stuff like that now. Because before 1968, that wasn't a thing. Obviously, you could literally go to a fucking hardware store and buy a gun. You could go to pretty much the corner store and get a gun. The only things that changed were the infringements upon our rights, is what it was, and it's kind of ironic, basically around that time too, when you look at what was happening in this country, which is that you had a lot of hate groups come about. People want to sit there and claim like the Black Panthers were so great. It's like, no, dude, they were a legit hate group back in those days, legitimately. They always have been. Like, their entire end game was a black supremacist agenda, legitimately. So, now granted, they sprung up because of the Democrat-created Klan at the time. But the thing is, like, it's like, both under the Democrat fucking wing of the party is what it was there, dude. And it's kind of hilarious when you look at it, too, nowadays, because you have the same shit going on now, where you have Antifa, who's the modern day KKK, and you have BLM, who's just that new version of Black Panthers is them. And what's ironic, actually, is it was I believe it was either Ronald Reagan when he was in the California General Assembly in the 60s, or it was somebody related to him. That was like another state senator there is what it was, who was actually directly behind banning guns in state houses across this country, because it was around, I believe it was either 67 or 68. You had a group of Black Panthers walk into the California State House back then, and they were armed with shotguns. And it was basically, it was almost like a mixture of like a show of force and a show of, hey, we're not going to be infringed upon, the kind of thing is what it was. But all it did was basically spark shit off, is what it was. And what they ended up doing was they walked into the California General Assembly, had a bunch of shotguns in hand, walked up to some sheriffs and sheriff's deputies that were standing there, and were like, here you go. At least as far as I understand, that's how it went anyway. There could be more to it than that, but every story I've heard about this whole thing, that's more or less how it went, is what it was. But again, that's, second, third-hand knowledge is what it is there, so who's to say how it actually went down? We can only assume it went down that way peacefully, but it could have been violent, honestly, for the fuck we know. Because that's the thing. They're and it's kind of like BLM too, for that matter. Like the whole Black Lives Matter movement and stuff. The majority of it is trash, but then there's like some chapters out there that really shouldn't be associated with the movement itself, because they're actually better people, is what it is, and they want to actually do something good for this country. And I think that's kind of what it was in the Black Panther movement as well. You had like some people that maybe weren't hardcore Black supremacists, and like a couple chapter heads and stuff like that were okay people and stuff. And then you had these other people that were just radical fucking terrorists, is what it was, dude, that were the ones that went around doing all kinds of terroristic shit, is what it was there. Like you had, what's that movie called? Judas and the Black Messiah, I think that's what it's called. I want to say that's what it's called. Came in a couple years ago here. It was about one of the Black Panther leaders, Fred Upton, and that guy was a piece of shit, by the way, for those who don't know. But yeah, it was his people, like under his leadership, and his like, he eventually went to jail, is what it was. It was them kind of being lacking leaders, and they became their own kind of leadership then, is what it was, and went full terrorists after the fact. But yeah, you had these people that were literally in a fucking building. You had the cops on the streets being like, hey, fuck you, kind of thing, or whatever the case be. But they weren't actually doing anything to like aggressively beat the shit out of people or anything like that. And you just had these idiots fucking start shooting at them from fucking windows in the building and stuff like that. And just lighting up a bunch of cop cars and shit, dude. And it's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, way to escalate shit when it didn't need to be. So, yeah, it's just so ridiculous entirely. But again, that's the problem with this country entirely, dude. It's like, you have all this kind of shit going place, and then you wonder why, you have people out there who, 70 to 90 years ago created Jim Crow laws in this country, where it was basically infringing on Black Americans' rights to own firearms in this nation, or any minorities' right to own firearms in this country, actually. And why it's just now in the last couple of years here, you've actually had a bunch of white General Assemblies in most cases, who have, or majority dominated white General Assemblies is what it is there, specifically North Carolina is what that was, where they actually overrode the veto of pieces of shit like Roy Cooper, who are a super fucking racist Democrat, with the pistol permit purchasing stuff there in North Carolina. Doesn't know about the story, actually. I talked about it here a couple of years ago, and I talked about, I think, last year is what it was too as well. Basically, Roy Cooper, who is the current governor of North Carolina until the end of the year, when they have a new governor's race, which most likely Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson will actually win, hopefully. The primary is going to be here in a couple months, so it'll be. But yeah, you had Roy Cooper basically 2022 and 2023. There was legislation pushed forward by the General Assembly there in North Carolina to do away with a requirement that was forcing people to have a permit to purchase pistols in the state of North Carolina, which was a leftover remnant in the Jim Crow era in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, someplace in there. And of course, in 2022, Cooper, being the racist piece of shit he was like, nope, let me go ahead and veto this out, knowing that the General Assembly at the time did not have the actual votes to override his veto. Fast forward an election cycle, being, the midterm stuff, there's what it was. You had a bunch of people win a supermajority there in North Carolina, which was enough to basically override his veto if they needed to, is what it was. Which at the time, I think they only needed like 5 or 6 more seats, is what it was, or something, which they won at least that many. And so, yeah, it came back around again. They reduced the legislation there in 2023, pushed it forward again. Piece of shit Cooper vetoed it yet again. And of course, this time around, the General Assembly had the votes to override his veto, is what it was. And now it's become law to where you cannot force infringement like that, where you cannot force people to go do like good cause bullshit to be like, oh, you need to show a good cause why you should be able to purchase a pistol in the state of North Carolina. No, that's fucking an infringement upon the Constitution, asshole. And that's the problem. It's always been these Democrats that are pushing the shit, dude. Now, granted, sometimes, and in a lot of cases nowadays in the federal government, you have a lot of rhino sacks of shit in there, like career politicians too, for that matter, that will, sit there and do nothing to stop this shit and actively facilitate and help it pass, is what it is in many cases. We saw this last year or so, or not last year, back in 2022, before that sack of shit Rob Portman retired from the U.S. Senate. He was one of the 10 scumbag-ass rhinos that one of his last acts in office was to help Biden and company pass that BS gun control after Uvalde is what it was. So, yeah, it's a bunch of shit entirely, dude. And it fucking pisses me off because it's like, you have no right to pull that kind of crap, dude. Like, you are not representing me, sir, at all. Or representing the state of Ohio, for that matter, at all. You are representing yourself to the anti-gun lobby being Bloomberg's backdoor fucking bribes and shit. And trying to basically stroke that fucking Bloomberg cock for some fucking Bloomberg billions is what it was then. And all kinds of fucking kickbacks and everything else like that, and bribes and everything else. So, but yeah. So anyway, basically shifting topics for a minute here. We're going to talk about Japan's what it was. So overnight, which was about, 4 to 6 hours ago, give or take, maybe a little bit longer than that, you had Japan hit with a Mega Quake, which I believe was a 8.6, I want to say. I'm going to go check that real quick just to confirm on this one. So I know that there was... I also want to pull up this other video here. I'm going to talk about this for a minute here, actually. So... yeah, let's see here. Yeah, we got powerful earthquakes off Japan's west coast prompt tsunami warnings. So a series of powerful earthquakes off central Japan's west coast damaged homes, started a fire, prompted tsunami warnings, and left tens of thousands without power Monday as residents were urged to seek higher ground. The Japanese Meteorology Agency said the Noto region of the western side of Japan's main island of Honshu was hit by a rapid series of earthquakes, about 20 in total, starting with a 5.7 magnitude tremor around 4:06 p.m. local time. Said that was followed by a major 7. There we go. It wasn't 8.6, it was 7.6. 7.6 magnitude earthquake just 4 minutes later. Then a 6.1 magnitude earthquake at 4:18 p.m. A 4.5 magnitude earthquake at 4:23 p.m., a 4.6 magnitude earthquake at 4:29 p.m., and a 4.8 magnitude earthquake at 4:32 p.m. Jesus Christ, dude. Like, that was, whew, man. Yeah, like, shit, man. If you're just sitting there doing whatever, like, fuck. Like, you're not going to be in good shape after that, is what it is. Because it's like, yeah, you're just like getting restabilized from the last one, or whatever the case be, and like that couple minutes, and all of a sudden the next one fucking hits you, is what it is. It's like, oh shit, here's another one. Like, man, that'd be some crazy stuff. I know there was like a little bit of video that have popped up since then from like people at a bowling alley where I don't know exactly which one they got hit by, is what it was that was showed in the video, but yeah, it was definitely rocking them pretty hard, is what it was. So it was either the first one or the second one, maybe. But yeah, just wild stuff, man. Like I said, it'd be interesting if there was like CCTV footage from like a store or something like that showed like all of them in succession over like the time span of like 15 minutes or whatever it was. Where you had like the first one like rock the shelves or whatever the case be, and then it was like most of the shit's on the ground, and then the Mega Quake happens, and then like everything's on the fucking ground, and then it's just like the next couple, it's just like everything's just shaking around on the ground, then or whatever the case be. Maybe the shelving comes down for that one or something, but anyway. Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Pray for Japan though, for sure, because they're mostly good people, is what it is, man. They got some criminal element there, is what it is, but not much. Yeah, for the most part, they're just good folks, is what it is, So, I don't know, man. Maybe the reason that, actually, come to think of it now, I think about it, because it said, it was about 6 quakes there, right? Maybe somebody finally unlocked the Megazords. Obviously, Power Rangers reference on that one. But no, seriously, like, you think about it, man, right? Like, who's to say that wasn't going on? You know, because I've talked about it before actually with like Japan, like because obviously we've been keeping them under a treaty since World War II, basically when they did the whole Pearl Harbor thing. I guess that's what it was there, and we basically forced them to not be able to like arm up. Basically, is what it is there. So who's to say that they haven't been making like some Go bots or something like that underground and shit this whole time or something like that, or like I'm trying to think what the other thing was now. It's like Voltron basically is what it would be, or some other kind of deal like that or something. But yeah, essentially it would be like same thing with Power Rangers 2. It would be like Megazords. So that would be pretty fucking crazy though, right? Like you just like see all these quakes in Japan, and then like you're looking off in the sky or something like that, and you just see like these crazy flying vehicles come out of nowhere, and it's like, what the fuck? And all of a sudden they transform into like one giant thing. It's just like, holy shit, that was real the whole time. We do have teenagers with attitude, apparently. So, God, I missed the original Power Rangers as a kid. Such a great fucking show. It's been like about 20 years or so since that show was on the air. The good ones, obviously. Obviously, you have all the crappy ones since then, is what it was. And, they did their 30th anniversary. Here's what it was not long ago. So, also, for that matter, in 2023, we actually saw The Sandlot have its 30th anniversary. So, great movie. I was actually talking to people about a show that I was thinking about writing on that, if they would ever make it. I don't think they would, but it would be interesting if they did, though, because it would basically be the Sandlot movies. You had, I think it was like 3, technically speaking, but there was only really 2 that were canon, is what it was. I don't really consider the third one canon because it really didn't have much to do with the actual first 2, is what it was there. But yeah, the first one obviously was the main one that actually was like theaters, is what it was. And that's one everybody knows. And then there was a second one in like somewhere in the 2000s is what it was there, like mid 2000s, somewhere in there. And it was even like 2010 actually, now I'm thinking about it. Or pretty close to that, like 2006, 7, somewhere in there. Anyway, but yeah, you had that second one that was supposed to be set like a decade later and was about the younger brother of the character of Smalls. So, and then technically both of those could be canon together in what I was thinking up as a TV series is what it would be. And basically my version, it would be set in the 90s, like current, like, the present day or whatever from where the original movie kicked off on at the very end. And it would essentially follow Benny's character, but instead of it obviously being played by the guy that was played by in the movie, where it was just some, older Latino guy is what it was there, it would actually be played by the actor who was originally Benny in that movie. Who obviously that kid went on to play in both the Mighty Ducks and in I'm trying to think what else he played now. God. There's like another big movie he played in, and I can't, my mind is blanking off. But yeah, he's basically in the Mighty Ducks, what it was. The second and third movies. As the one kid who could skate, but he couldn't stop. And that actor specifically has now become a firefighter in California as of a few years ago, is what it was. So I'm not sure what he's doing nowadays, but I know he was a firefighter like a decade ago or so, give or take. And so basically what you would have is the gist of that storyline is it would be him as the character of Benny still in the future is what it was there in the 90s. He would have had a couple of kids at this point, and so would Smalls for that matter. Like they both would have had children at this point, obviously, that are like, 10, 12, 14, someplace in there, give or take. And you would have Benny's daughter and Smalls' son end up having a relationship at some point in the actual series, it'll be then. And the gist of the whole thing would be you would have, like, this is the plot storyline for this whole thing I thought of, actually, which is you would have Benny. It was obviously at the end of that movie where he was stealing bases and stuff. It would be a different game that he would be stealing a base in, and it ended up being a situation where he landed wrong and like blew his knee completely out to where it ended his career in the majors, what it was there. And so basically that's where the actual series itself starts, would be him moving back to the town with his family. And then you would already have Small still living in that town is what it is, with his wife and kids and stuff. And you would basically have them, reconnect. And it would be, there would be other people obviously from the original movies too, as well, that have lived there. Like you'd have Squints and his wife there, obviously, with the little general store place is what it was there. And a couple other characters would be here and there is what it is. And then you'd also have people that were in the second movie that would also come back and be part of that storyline too, for that matter. Specifically, it would be 2 of the 3 chicks that were in that second movie, because obviously, if you never saw the second movie, when the younger brother talks about everybody's like whole things after the fact or whatever the case be, he was talking about these 2 girls that basically became wives and mothers, and so they would basically just be townsfolk, is what it would be then, in the thing. They might not be like, they'd probably be like more or less like a character in an episode or something like that, potentially, just to like be like, oh, here they are kind of thing is what it is. And I think at least one of their kids, like each, would actually be part of like the new Sandlot kids would be then. So yeah, it's basically just a spitball kind of thing at this point. But that's basically the gist of what it would be then. It would be a storyline of like 2 different generations reconnecting through baseball, essentially, is what it is. So, where it'd be the adults and then it'd be their kids and stuff like that. But anyway, that's all besides the point, and that's getting us off track is what it is. But going to what we're talking about here, which is obviously Japan's Quakes there. Like, yeah, that'd be fucking crazy, dude, to see like something with all them Quakes there. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the Anti-Gunner woman I was mentioning here earlier is what it was, though. But because we're going to discuss this whole thing and the stupidity of some of these people that are, you know, military people or whatever the case be, that want to sit there and act like, oh, I'm a military vet and somehow my opinion to infringe people's rights matters and whatever it is, dude. And it's like, no, it really doesn't actually, asshole. It really, really doesn't. And it kind of makes me wonder, you know, going back to what I talked about like a couple years back now is what it was with Mike Durant, the one guy who survived Black Hawk Down. It's funny because there is a scene in that movie based on the actual events, which I can only assume actually happened to Mike Durant, which is basically he was kidnapped by the Somalis at the very end of the whole thing. And you had one of the Somali guys grab up an empty gun and just beat him in the fucking head with it, is what it was. And it kind of makes me wonder, you know, if you're grabbing like somebody's M16 and like whacking him upside the head with it, like, is that the exact moment that Michael Durant became an anti-gunner? So it like makes sense, honestly, if you think about it from that perspective of things. But yeah, because there was like a bunch, and the reason I bring that up obviously is because Durant himself was trying to run for the 2022 midterms in the U.S. Senate, is what it was there in Alabama, because he was basically running on some bullshit, claiming to be pro-freedom, pro-2A, etc. And then it came out there was like clips from like a couple years before that, or like maybe like a decade before that, something like that is what it was, where it was him basically straight up saying about disarming Americans is what it was there. And people were like, yeah, go fuck yourself, Durant. And he was trying to basically make a whole thing of like, oh, but I'm not about infringement now kind of thing is what it is. And it's like, yeah, bullshit, dude. Like, once an infringer, always an infringer is the way I look at it, honestly, personally. And it's like, unless you're going to prove to everyone through some way, shape, or form, and that way, shape, or form usually is actually creating an organization or becoming part of an organization that would directly help unrestrict rights at that point, where it would basically be all these infringements that have already been put on the books in various states and stuff like that that are anti-gun crap, you would be legitimately fighting to throw those out the window and repeal them, as it will be then. And until you're going to jump on that thing, like, go fuck yourself is what it is, man. And that's exactly why I hate Tulsi Gabbard still to this day, because she is directly responsible for like 90% of what's currently Hawaii's gun laws, and wants to sit there and act like she, you know, turned her heel or whatever the case be into a different direction. And it's like, yet she's still not fighting to go back to Hawaii and deal with that shit at a local level there. And all the stuff that she architected for the fucking gun laws to actually do away with it now and get it repealed off the books is what it'd be then. So until she does that stuff, she can go fuck herself is what it is. At least how I look at it, honestly. But, yeah, so this basically leads to what we're going to talk about right here with this Cheryl woman. This is from a feed, like, this popped up in my feed earlier. Actually, somebody else was responding back to this woman. I don't know who they are, but again, it's, I think what it is that you'll have like these social media sites, whether it be X, Twitter, or whatever the case be, etc. If you get to a point or whatever in these sites or whatever, it'll start being like algorithmic, where if you're talking about gun rights or guns or whatever enough, or anything like that, like any kind of topic specifically, like let's say I was talking about toys or something like that, you know, like action figures or something, I'm sure that would curate certain tweets to my ass is what it is there. I think that's what happened here is what it was, where it was basically, you know, me being a gun rights organization on the site and always talking about gun rights and stuff like that on there. I think you have an algorithm curating different tweets to me is what it is there. So anyway, but yeah, this one popped up and this guy was responding to this chick right here is what it is, which is the Cheryl with an S woman who said, "We need better gun laws and AR-15s off our streets. Although they are not military weapons, they are semi-automatic and meant to fire rounds rapidly. AR-15 style semi-automatic weapons are considered to be civilian versions of military weapons that gun control advocates say aren't very different. The original military design dates back to the 50s. The AR-15, it looks like she's direct quoting a lot of this actually is what it is. Yeah, it dates back to 1950s. Quote, AR-15, like its military version, is designed to kill people quickly and in large numbers. National Rifle Association calls it America's rifle. Critics say the weapon has no valid recreational use and civilians should not be allowed to own them, according to Time Magazine. So here's the problem with that, right? Like, the whole point is, and we've talked about this many times on this channel, dude, if you look at modern sporting rifles, which is what the AR-15 is, you know, literally what the fucking AR-15 is here, yes, it was meant to kill tyrants, legitimately. And then you have the NRA being like, oh, it's for hunting, etc. It's like, yeah, dude, hunting tyrants, legitimately. Like, nothing else. Like, obviously, it can be used to take down, you know, wild game and shit, whether it be deer or fucking wild boar, whatever the case be. But that's the point is what it is, man. The entire point of the fucking any kind of gun in this country, the whole entire reason for its creation was to take out fucking tyrants. Ever since our founding fathers' days, man. You know, in their day, the musket was the AR-15 at that time. Now, granted, there's actually other various guns that were more powerful and fired more rounds than it. That would actually be more equivalent to what the AR is now, is what it is. Like, obviously, back then you had various, I'm trying to remember what the one kind of gun is called now that was in the Civil War. It was Gatling guns. They basically had those back then to some extent, but unfortunately, they were also too heavy / cumbersome and just bulky and like sort of basically hard to take anywhere is what it was there. So it's why you never really saw them used in the actual American Revolution in this country is what it was there. And that's why they weren't. It wasn't until, you know, decades later, actually it was almost a century later, don't think about it, where you actually had the better design version of the Gatling gun than the actual Civil War is what it was then. I should say the first American Civil War, actually, because we're about to go into the second one here is what it is. Which, you know, I made the prediction last night on E Honda's channel that we are now 171 days, aka June 18th, 2024, away from Civil War kicking off in this country, which, and I reiterated that obviously after the fact. It's like, it might not be what actual Civil War would look like, honestly. It might be something more like, you know, a color revolution, or in a lot of cases, it could be like tribal warfare for that matter, because that's another thing they're trying to push right now is what it is, which is basically the whole, you know, hate, whether it be anti-white hate, black supremacy, stuff like that, etc. there. And it's that, you know, race-based narrative where it's like black on white crimes and stuff like that all the time. And it could be something like that, honestly, where it's, you know, black, white, and then you have Latino, Asian, etc., jumping on the whole thing as well. Because that's one thing people never really talk about with the actual Rodney King riots, the LA race riots from 1992 is what it was there, which is you specifically had during the whole, you know, Roof Korean thing and Koreatown being burned to the ground basically during that situation. A lot of Korean shop owners, businesses, were not being targeted by black people. They were being targeted by Latinos specifically. It was a bunch of Latino gangbangers and stuff like that that were targeting their asses. So, yeah, very interesting. And I could easily see it breaking down to that kind of thing again. But, yeah, that being said, obviously that kind of brings up something as well that I want to mention here before we get back to that original post by that Cheryl one, which is basically this whole thing, which is as of last night / this morning, you had this shit going on in fucking Arizona, which is a bunch of illegal, all fighting age males, military age males, ma'ams, crossing our fucking border, chilling out around a fucking fire, being ready to invade our country and become the foreign standing army. Another squadron is what it would be here. But yeah, as it's Wokeness account said here, it said, this was filmed last night at the border in Arizona. All men from the Middle East, military age, fit, well-fed, no family. A man fleeing war takes his family. A man going to war leaves them. And these are the kind of fucking people, by the way, these are kind of fucking terrorist pieces of shit right here that scumbag motherfuckers like Dick Durbin want to give a free pass and U.S. citizenship to if they would join our military. Because the Democrats know for a fact that they would use these cocksuckers to come confiscate our shit is what it is, dude. They would use them as some kind of UN shock troops or something else for that matter. Or some, military fucking regime or whatever the case be under Biden's control, obviously, or whoever the fuck's control, because it's not like Biden control at all. He's a dimensional fuck pedophile piece of shit. Not like Kamala either, for that matter, because she's a fucking moron, too. Most likely Antony Blinken is my guess at this point, dude, because I've said it before with that guy. Like, that dude's been Biden's handler since, like, 2011 is what it is there. And you've had him basically be pulling the puppet strings for a while now. And, of course, Obama's also, talked about as potentially, like, Biden's handler at this point and being, like, the third Obama term, basically, is what it is right now. So, neither one would surprise me, honestly, on that one. If it was, like, a mix between both those guys, like, both where it's basically Obama's the guy behind the scenes, and you'd have like Blinken be the guy actually pulling the puppet strings, like right next to Biden is what it is there. Because there's been a lot of video in the last, 6 months to a year or so, give or take, where you have Biden going off to like various trips across the world is what it is there, and like doing like random visits to wherever for like whatever reason. And you have him going to reporters and stuff like that and saying some bunch of dumb shit, and then you'll see Blinken's ass in the background, like kind of creeping off in the background, being like, oh shit, I couldn't get to him again, or whatever the case be, kind of thing. And he's more or less trying to handle Joe is what it is right now, dude. Like, he's basically there to keep Biden from saying something dumb is what it is in most cases. And also basically control the narrative. When if you look at who's basically the one being, funding to Ukraine all the time is what it is, it's always fucking Antony Blinken is what it is there, man. A man who has been an unelected official in this country for decades, who has been given positions of power currently right now as Secretary of State illegally because it's Biden's fucking regime that's been in there unconstitutionally for years now, when they cheated their asses off to, get into power is what it is there in 2020. And see the President Trump and obviously it was Pence then as Trump's VP, but of course Pence is a scumbag traitor for that matter because he basically showed us true colors as the fucking Judas this country really is, honestly, which I don't know how to really compare him to Judas per se, because that would mean that obviously Trump would be Jesus Christ, and I don't really like to do that kind of thing, but I would actually compare Trump, compare Pence to more or less a modern version of Benedict Arnold, what it was, who, screwed over this country, screwed over founding fathers, and became like basically a turncoat for the British Empire is what it was then. So I think he's more Benedict Arnold type is what it is there. But anyway, that's besides the point, though. The entire point is, though, Blinken has been Biden's handler for decades, what it is now. So, yeah, and then you got all these fucking fighting age males. Here's what it is. So, yeah, and then, of course, you got somebody else doing the whole thing of a man fleeing war, takes his wife and children. Man going to war, leaves them behind. And it's basically a bunch of migrants on a fucking boat going to some other countries, what it is there. So, actually, this guy pointed it out correctly. He said treason is happening. And then he pointed out specifically in the U.S. Constitution exactly what part of the whole thing is, which is U.S. Constitution Article 4, Section 4. Said United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislator or the executive where the legislator cannot be convened against domestic violence. Exactly, dude. It's invasions. Like I've been saying for over a year now, dude. It's literally fucking by design is what it is, man. It's disgusting. See, this chick here said, or I guess a chick, I'm not sure, said, notice the extreme conditions they're escaping from haven't prevented them from having smartphones. Exactly, dude. Yep. Illegals are not immigrants. They are criminals. Send them back. Yep. Then you got that dude in California there that has lived in this space right here for like a decade or 20 years now or something like that. And now you've had the last couple of years a bunch of illegals basically jumping the fucking border there and you can't do anything about it, is what it is. And they're coming right through his backyard and shit, dude. Which, again, how does that, like, that's what I don't understand, right? Like, you own the property that they are illegally crossing from. How the fuck do you not have the right to take them out from your property, dude, because they're trespassing on your property is what it is there? It just blows me away, honestly. It really does. So, anyway, yeah, just crazy shit, man, for sure. But, going back to that Cheryl woman, though, the anti-gunner bitch from this whole thing, you have, after the whole thing with the Time Magazine thing, she said, I am a gun owner, so the right-wingers don't even bother to attack me. We have more mass shootings than any other country. Life is more important than you owning an AR-15. Your Second Amendment right does not mean you should have weapons of mass destruction. Actually, it does, bitch. By the fucking letter of the law, by the actual Constitution that our founding fathers wrote, by the men that never gave dumb cunts like you the actual right to vote in this country. Because, shocker, it wasn't until 1919, just over 100 years ago now, that women actually got the right to vote. And who was the first president that they voted in? One of the worst pieces of shit in this country's history, which in fact was specifically Warren G. Harding. So, yeah. Legitimately, dude. But anyway. So, or wait, no. Was it Harding's presidency? Or was it the guy after? No, I'm thinking about it, dude. Or was it Calvin Coolidge? Yeah, because Coolidge would have been his successor, because I think Harding died in office in 23 is what it was. I believe. Maybe it was FDR I'm thinking about, actually. It was the second choice they had, actually, dude. Okay, now Calvin Coolidge was president then. In 2024. Let's see, 2020, or sorry, 1924. Yeah, and then you had Herbert Hoover in 28. So it probably was Coolidge, if I'm thinking about it right. So yeah, it was like the Harding Coolidge administration. That's what I'm thinking of, obviously. But that's the whole point, dude. Like, you had like the scumbags taking over is what it was there, man. And then you had all these other dumbasses after the fact is what it was then. You know, you've had the Bill Clinton types. You've had the other Democrats like Obama and stuff like that voted by these jackass females and stuff like that, dude, over the decades. Ironically enough, actually, and that's one thing people talked about with the whole like possibility of like false flags coming in the next few days. Here's what it is, which as of last night, you had California Court of Appeals, or Court of Appeals in for California, whatever it was there, basically allow for the bullshit scumbag implementation this morning of California now becoming a even bigger anti-gunner state by basically creating sensitive places where people can't carry is what it is, even though they have concealed carry licensing and stuff like that. And shocker, right after that fucking happened, you had another mass shooting in California this morning as of like 2 or 3 a.m. So, yeah, just absolute bullshit entirely, dude. And it makes logical sense when you think about it, right? That you would have like the biggest anti-gun state in this country have a bunch of mass shootings in it and have the most mass shootings of all places, what it is there. Which, ironically enough, going back to Cheryl's whole thing there, you got this fucking Marine guy saying, an AR-15 uses the exact same rounds my M16 rifle used when I served in the Marines. Even as an active duty Marine, our weapons were stored and locked in the armory and only permitted during training or war. The Second Amendment should not mean a gun like an AR-15 is in the hands of every civilian, said M. Shams, U.S. Marine veteran. Yeah, you can go fuck yourself, Mr. Shams. Again, how many blows to the head did you take during the fucking war, buddy? Like, that's my question right there. Because nah, dude, I think I'll just keep this bad boy right here. Do what needs to be done with it, you know. If the time shall come where I have to use it, in defense of myself or another. You know, it's actually something that we were talking about last night in the after chat, where you had it was mentioned by one of the panelists that it doesn't take a person who is all that skilled to use a gun like this to fire many rounds. And it could take out a lot of people in the process, or take out a lot of enemies in the process. And they're right about that one. It doesn't. You know, we've seen that many times, actually. You've seen the ease by people who otherwise couldn't use other firearms effectively, use an AR-15 very effectively is what it is. You know, in a lot of cases, it was for self-defense in this country. You had that woman down in Florida who was 8.5, 9 months pregnant, her husband and son were being beaten by a bunch of criminals that broke into their home. There's what it was. She grabbed the husband's AR, ran out through the fucking corridor there, is what it was, for the hallway there, or whatever it was. Fucking popped off a couple of rounds at these fucking intruders. Ended up killing one of them. The guy dropped fucking dead in their ditch line. And his buddy was sort of bleeding out too, for that matter, and ended up being caught later on and have like a life-threatening wound as well, for that matter. So, yeah. And there's been a bunch of other ones too, for that matter. You've had all these people that have been there. Like, that's the thing too, by the way. People never realize this, man. You have so many gangs now that are sitting here impersonating cops in this country to where they're going around knocking people's door being like, oh, this is the CPD or the whatever the fuck it is, Dallas Police Department or whatever there it is, and being like, open the door, come to the door, whatever the case be. Or even in that same case, you have people, I saw one recently that was actually from a couple years ago now, and it was making the rounds again, where it was this dude who was impersonating a pizza delivery driver, where he had the pizza box in his hand. He rung the guy's doorbell, which was one of them Ring doorbells or whatever it was, the camera ones, and legitimately, he flipped the fucking box up, and there was a Glock in his hand, and as soon as the dude opens the door, he fucking, like, throws the pizza to the ground and, like, shoves the fucking gun in his face. Then home invade his ass is what it was then. Not sure how that story ended. I'm assuming it ended with a dead fucking homeowner, if that'd be the case then. Or at least some dude who was, like, terrorized, home invaded, etc. there, and had all the shit taken then. So, but yeah, it's a bunch of shit, dude. And for people to sit here and be like, oh, you should have known this thing or that thing, fuck you, man. There was a reason why the Second Amendment is the only amendment in the Bill of Rights that specifically ends with shall not be infringed. Because anything that you do against gun owners in this country, anything you do against the right of the people to keep and bear arms, which is not just guns, but any other weaponry that the military also has access to, is an infringement upon our rights, which is exactly what we've seen for decades now with American citizens not having access to RPGs or grenades or planes with fucking missiles on them or tanks full of fucking munitions, etc. Like, yeah, you can buy a fucking tank, etc., dude, but it's not going to be loaded with a fucking bunch of ammo and shit. Even though it should totally be able to be that thing. And of course, in order to get like a grenade or a fucking, like some other kind of quote unquote dangerous ordinance, you got to do tax stamps and shit like that's what it is. Now, granted, that being said, I could kind of understand, given how our fucking country is right now, with us being all fucking racially divided and shit like that by the media and everything else like that, of exactly why you wouldn't want to have, grenades in everybody's hands, obviously, because they have fucking grenade wars is what it'd be then, man. Everybody just be popping off and be like, oh, I'll just fucking blow this whole fucking place up with my grenade or whatever the case be, and then some fucking jackass just pulls the pin and is like, ding, and everybody's fucking, within like a 10-foot radius, whatever it is there, is now full of fucking shrapnel and shit. So, anyway. But, actually, I can see that being used with a lot of criminals, for that matter, where it's just they walk up to like a, like instead of just being like a strong arm robbery where it's like a gun or whatever involved in it, they would just walk up to like the counter of like a convenience store or whatever the case be and just like pull out a fucking grenade and be like, give me the money or I'm pulling the fucking pin, bitch. So, which would be fucking nuts too, by the way. Now, granted, that being said, does that mean that American citizens shouldn't be able to buy grenades in many cases? No, it does not actually. We should totally be able to buy grenades in this country. Same thing with rocket launchers and RPGs and stuff like that, dude. Now, granted, if we ever did get that ability to have that stuff, it'd probably be like $100,000 a piece or something like that, something crazy like that, where it'd be like some exorbitant amount that they would put on it then, so it couldn't be in like everybody's hands would be then, so it wouldn't be technically common use kind of thing as would be then. So, but yeah, it's a bunch of shit entirely, dude. Not to mention when you have and this is something I heard about probably about a year and a half ago, give or take now, which is that you supposedly have weapons caches all across this country being put in stash houses run by Mexican cartels and stuff like that, where it's full of all kinds of full auto AKs, grenades, rocket launchers, any kind of munitions you'd want. There's what it is, pretty much. Pretty much full auto everything for that matter. It's actually, I'm assuming a lot of the stuff in that place is actually what was given to the cartels and stuff like that during Operation Fast and Furious in Obama's administration there. Not to mention the shit that was left behind in 2021, the Afghanistan withdrawal by dipshit Biden and company, which a lot of that's now in the hands of Hamas and their terrorist organizations overseas that are all Islamic terrorism. So, yeah. And that's the thing, too, by the way. Like, you have these people importing Islamic terrorism through our open border every single day, and people are like, nah, bro, you as a citizen shouldn't have this. Nah, fuck you, man. In fact, if I had the money right now, not only would I have this one, I'd have about a dozen other ones around this fucking house, actually. Because that's my right to have that kind of stuff, dude. And it's as simple as that, honestly. And it's everybody's right to have that kind of stuff, obviously. You know, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's funny to me, too, because there was a video I was watching yesterday, actually, or we're still in 2023, where it was a sheriff deputy guy, or actually it might have been the sheriff of the actual county there in Florida is what it was. But he was basically giving a statement, and I forget, I'm not sure how long ago this video was from or whatever the case be, but he was talking about underage teens who were stealing guns and stuff like that to use in crimes. And the reporters in the room or whatever were like asking him stupid questions what it was about the stuff. And he really went up on their asses on that one and was like, it doesn't matter what gun laws you pass because they're already breaking the current ones. Like, no gun law in the future is going to restrict upon whatever the hell this is, dude. That's going to stop this. The only way to deal with this stuff is to deal with the criminals behind the stuff is what it is there. Which is ironic because now you have, I heard this one yesterday as well for that matter. There was a, let me see if I can find it real quick actually. Because it was a video of, yeah, let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. I'm hoping it's still on this one. Yeah, this was from a rally, I guess they were trying to do in New York State there. It was a put the guns down rally kind of thing. To help evoke positive change in the community. But then there was also this, let me see if I can find it here right now. Yeah, this video right here out of Tennessee, which was talking about banning gun thieves from buying guns. And this is apparently something they're going to try to put through a Tennessee legislator this coming session, which is specifically by this state senator guy, Adam Lowe, who is talking about how if a person were to steal somebody else's firearm, any point in the future, then they would be banned from ever owning a gun in the state of Tennessee then. Now, granted, and as I said in that little article there, or that little news clip there, it would not be a broad brush blanket thing that would restrict backwards, basically. I forget what that's actually called. Like I think it's retroactively is what I'm thinking of right now. So it wouldn't be like retroactive. It would just be anybody that would steal something after this legislation would become law then. They would be the ones that prohibited persons list and stuff like that then from ever owning a gun ever again. So, which to that I'm kind of like torn, honestly, because really it's like, yeah, they're probably going to be a piece of shit in general because most of their career criminal is doing that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like, okay, let's say it is, you know, some 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, whatever the case be, or even some like 14 or 15-year-old kid for that matter, doing that kind of stuff. You know, some teenager, whatever the case be. Or hell, it could even be the preteen for that matter. It could be them, you know, having an initiation thing, whatever the case be, and they have like some 8, 10-year-old kid or something like that going in there and stealing the shit then. And then you would take away that child's right to ever own again is what it is, even though, you know, as a child being swayed by their fucking friends and peer pressure and shit like that to do that kind of stuff versus, you know, maybe they are, you know, first time offender, maybe they could be saved and stuff like that kind of deal. But now you're putting this mark on them forever now as a criminal. And now it becomes a situation of, you know, let's go ahead and say 10, 15, 20 years passes now and they're, you know, 25, 30 years old. And they've changed their life around completely, you know, because that is a possibility, honestly, where you have them basically, you know, being caught up in the system, but being given a second chance kind of thing. And now they have no right to legally own again. And now you're basically looking at a future Supreme Court challenge would be then of rights restoration kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm very torn about the whole thing, honestly, dude. Like, I honestly think if you're going to do that kind of legislation, it shouldn't be a blanket kind of thing like that. It should be a case-by-case deal, whatever the case be, where if they obviously are, like, either close to legal age or they are legal age, like, yeah, fuck them. But like I said, if it's like some like kid basically being like peer pressured into doing this kind of shit or whatever the case be by like some fucking, older influence or something like that kind of deal, like, man, maybe give them a second fucking chance on us, for God's sakes. So, because that's the thing. I don't think everybody's really evil, truly, specifically speaking, is what it is. But there are some that obviously are completely fucking evil. And then there's a lot that are actually just people who are, put in a bad situation to where they don't have a father figure in their lives, and then they basically look for anything is what it is then, and they find like the wrong fucking crowd is what it is then. To be those father figures, older, influence types and stuff like that is what it is to their, young minds and shit. So, yeah, it's hard to say, man. I think the real problem in this country is parenting, personally speaking. It's people that either don't want to be parents or absentee parents, whatever the case be, or it's, follow us homes, whatever the case be in a lot of cases. But that being said, it's only to certain extents, obviously. Like when you get down to the, nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts of the situation there's obviously people who are 100% just pieces of shit who don't give a fuck about the laws is what it is, dude. Don't give a fuck about this country. Don't give a fuck about, anything. Don't respect anybody. Don't have any respect for anything is what it is there. And really just need to get a good old fashioned right across the fucking mouth is what it is, dude. Because it's kind of the only things they know at that point, honestly. And maybe it is that good slap they need. Just going to take that one, ass whooping, whatever it is there, to put them back in check and understand, like, yeah, there's there's consequences for the actions you commit, dude, is what it is. So, I don't know. There's a reason, by the way, though, back in the day, back in like the, 50s, 60s or so, give or take, all the way up to like, I think it was the 70s when they finally took it out of schools there is what it was, where you'd have principals with a fucking paddle in their office. And whenever one of the kids, was sent to the office and stuff like that, they get a paddling. It'd be like one of those Dazed and Confused style paddles, what it is there, where you just smack people on the ass with it and stuff like that, dude. Which, maybe that's what we need, actually, to bring back, dude, is like, sort of like a Dazed and Confused kind of timeline is what it is here now. Where it's like, you got the seniors beating the shit out of the incoming freshmen is what it is there. With a bunch of paddles and stuff. So, I don't know. I feel like that whole thing is just like bad news in general, though, because you're opening up the whole can of worms at that point, though. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, though, looking back to 2023, there, I know in the last few days here, I watched a whole bunch of stuff about different stuff, and you got people talking about across the board right now with schooling and stuff, where it's these, preteens, teens, etc., don't want to do nothing and just want to get high all the time and don't want to listen to authority or anything like that for that matter, or even learn for that matter at all. And then you wonder why you got these people that are just ignorant as hell is what it is and just completely illiterate for that matter, don't know how to read, write, etc. So, I don't know, man. I feel like there's definitely solutions to certain things, but who the fuck knows what it is right now, though. But, yeah, I called that Cheryl woman out, though, earlier. I said, no, Cheryl, you're a leftist hypocrite who believes only you and the government should be armed. Meanwhile, there are fighting-age illegals jumping our border every hour of every single day that will become the gun confiscators by year's end. If you want to blame something, blame gun-free zones. And then as this person that went by 2A Texan was saying in the comment section here, they were saying Second Amendment has nothing to do with recreation or hunting. The primary purpose of the right to keep and bear arms is the defense of the nation from enemies outside and from within. And as it says here, the object of the clause, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, is the security of well-armed militia, but a militia would be useless unless citizens were enabled to exercise themselves in the use of warlike weapons. To preserve this privilege and to secure the people the ability to oppose themselves in military force against the usurpations of government, as well as against enemies from without, that government is forbidden by any law or proceeding to invade or destroy the right to keep and bear arms, and that was John Norton Pormry, who was a American lawyer and legal writer, is what it was. So then this 2A Texan guy also said, fewer than 355 homicides per year are committed with rifles of any kind, much less AR-15s. 2 times as many are murdered with hands and fists. 5 times as many are stabbed to death. If every rifle in the United States miraculously disappeared, the impact would be minuscule. Yes, they would be. Yes, they would be. And that's the thing too, right? And as we've talked about already in this episode, you have people who will sit here and act like, oh, if you just got rid of all the guns in America, you'd have no guns or no criminals, whatever the case be. Bullshit, dude. It'd be just like Australia. It'd be just like New Zealand, etc. before this whole thing, where you had piece of shit career criminals, in many cases child molesters over there, in positions of power like Jacinda Ardern, etc. there, who did that kind of stuff, stole people's rights away from them in those countries. And then meanwhile, you had criminal gangs literally tell them to fuck off. Be like, oh, you want my shit? Come and fucking take it, government, and see what fucking happens. And that's exactly what you would have with many armed citizens in this country right now. You know, it's like that one when we were watching on Honda's chat last night with a woman, where it was, I'm not sure exactly what state it happened in, but it was basically this woman on a Ring doorbell camera calling out the cops for trying to, like, block the camera and stuff like that. And it's like, get the fuck off my property, cunt, etc., there. And at the very end of it, she's like, you motherfuckers pointed AR-15s at me, go fuck yourself, or something like that. And it does make me wonder, like, there's other video out there of her being, you know, kind of assaulted by the cops kind of thing is what it is there. Because that's the one thing about the whole video there is what it was, at like 3 minutes or so that was filmed on that Ring doorbell camera, was you had her talk to them about producing a warrant multiple times, and each time she asked for them to show her a fucking warrant, they never fucking did. Because they probably didn't have one, was my guess, honestly. Which, in some cases, doesn't really matter anymore because of the bullshit with the NDAA is what it is there that's been re-upped every year is what it is for the, you know, most unconstitutional, you know, anti-constitution in this country, which would be the Patriot Act of, after 9/11 happened there in 2001. Which is basically the NDA itself, National Defense Act, National Defense Authorization Act is what it is, actually allows for blackbagging of U.S. citizens and torture in this country of American citizens. Because you can literally, like, basically if they wanted to right now, you could have a bunch of feds kick my door in right now, fucking blackbag my ass on camera, stream goes dark or whatever the case be then. Probably gets deleted after the fact, is my guess, honestly, on that one. And I would now be in some fucking black site somewhere being tortured now for whatever reason. And that's the fucked up scary part too, for that matter, because this is the kind of shit that's directly infringing upon our Fourth Amendment rights for legal search and seizure and stuff like that, dude. Or even Fifth Amendment for that matter, of, you know, due process and or I should say Fourth Amendment due process, and then obviously Fifth Amendment of not being able to self-incriminate and stuff like that is what it is. Or actually, if you can go to other things like that, it would also be, you know, no unjust punishments and things like that would be there, or cruel and punishments, I should say, is what it is then. For the other, you know, random Bill of Rights is what it be there for constitutional rights in this country. So, and that's the thing people never realize, dude. Like, the whole point of the U.S. Constitution that our founding fathers wrote is this is stuff that the government can't do. These are things they cannot restrict upon, dude. Whether it be freedom of speech, the press, etc., or whether it be the Second Amendment for that matter, or the Third Amendment, or Fourth Amendment, or Fifth Amendment, or Sixth Amendment, or whatever the case be then. You know? Like, and that's one thing I'm kind of thinking about right now, honestly, right? Like, how long until what we're seeing right now with the open border system and all these illegals coming over, they're all fighting age males and stuff like that. How long until a Third Amendment is restricted, right, or is infringed upon then, where you'd have them being like, oh, now you have to quarter these people in your fucking homes? Because obviously, for those who don't know, you obviously the Third Amendment of the Constitution would be no quartering of soldiers. I think it's Third Amendment, right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any home without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. And obviously, Fourth Amendment is legal search and seizures. Fifth Amendment is no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on the presentment, or indictment of a grand jury except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when an actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subjected for the same offense be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. Obviously, double jeopardy is what it is there. And it goes on from there. Basically, yeah. And that's something people don't realize, too, for that matter. Going back to the Fifth Amendment there for double jeopardy and stuff, that actually can be done to you now because of the way that there was some bullshit laws written during Obama's administration is what was there, where you can basically be tried at a state level for something, and then you can have the federal government turn around and charge you for the same fucking crime then, and double jeopardy your ass on that one. Then if you get away with it at state levels, it'll be then. So, yeah, just a fucked up thing entirely, man. But anyway. I also found something interesting out this morning, actually, which I guess at one point back in 1999, for 11 days, you actually had Ohio's first and only female governor. Because it was George Voinovich in 1998 was the governor, and then he ended up going into U.S. Senate as of the first of the year then. And you had a woman named Nancy P. Hollister become the first and only female governor of Ohio for 11 days then to finish out that just term what it was there. So, yeah, pretty interesting. Which I can only assume that 11 days there was probably is when you had the new governor who won the 98 race become governor then in 1999 is what it was then to 2002 would be my assumption. Which I think was Ted Strickland, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to look it up actually real quick then. So, actually, I'm going to look it up right now because I want to say that was Strickland's administration, but I could be wrong about that one though. But oh no, sorry, it was Bob Taft. That's who it was. Yeah, that was that idiot Taft, who was one of the scumbags recently who was trying to fuck over a 60% threshold amendment. And of course, they succeeded in that whole situation. Which is fucked up too, because Ohio should have been the 43rd state that had that ability on there to be like, no, we got a 6% threshold. You got to get past 6% due to the voter base to pass amendments into our state constitution, then assholes. Which if we'd actually gotten that in place, then you wouldn't have had these fuckers be able to put abortion and shit like that into our state constitution right now, which, by the way, I've said many times up to and including last year is what it was, that it's impossible for that to even be law right now in this state because it directly infringes upon Article 1, Section 1 of the Ohio Constitution for life, liberty, property. So, and the fact there's not lawsuits on that alone is fucking ridiculous right now, dude. So anyway, going back to that end wokeness comment section for that all the Islamic terrorism there. This guy was talking about the people. They said, clean clothes, clean shaven, well fed, smiling, not what refugees look like. 2024 could very well be the year of the sleeper cell. Oh, it 100% will be, dude. And that's the thing. It's not even really sleeper cells for that matter, dude. It's, and I've said this before with the whole like X Factor, Civil War and stuff like that, is you would have Islamic terrorism sleeper cells. You would have Chinese sleeper cells in this country. But the problem is, though, if Democrats like Dick Durbin get their way, they wouldn't be sleeper cells. They would simply become part of the U.S. military then, and it would be this whole fucking foreign standing army that's now called U.S. military. And they would 100% be the guys firing upon U.S. citizens and stuff like that, dude, because they have no actual allegiance to this country because they're not U.S. citizens of what it is, man. They're not actually giving a fuck about the constitutional rights of the American people is what it is, man, because they don't actually have them themselves because they're not fucking legally in this country, for God's sakes. So, anyway, but, see what y'all been saying here. Let's see, we got Tactical Muffin Top in the house, had Tex in the house, had Magnum in the house. Okay, it was Woodrow Wilson that was the well, okay, but that's the thing though, right? He was president when the shit was passed for women's voting rights, so it would be the guy after him then would be Warren G. Harding though. So I mean, technically, yeah, you could technically blame Wilson though for that whole thing because it would be his administration that would have allowed women to get the right to vote to begin with is what it is then. So maybe that's what it was, honestly. I don't know. But yeah, it was Woodrow Wilson that was one of the worst presidents ever lived. Yep. Makes sense. Let's see. We got Randy in the house and had a pizza guy knocking on my door around 1 a.m. in the morning. Didn't order anything. Could have been a real Domino's guy. Didn't open the door. Find out. Yeah. Like, here's the thing, though, right? Around here, those places ain't open at fucking 1 o'clock in the morning, man. That shit closes at like 11 p.m. And even then, if you got somebody coming to my house at like 10:45 at night or whatever the case be and being like, pizza man, I'm going to be like, nah, no, you're not. So, especially in or anything, man, for that matter. So, anyway, but yeah, it's a bunch of shit entirely. Yeah, somebody brought up to that Nancy woman there. Or not Nancy, Cheryl woman there. If she was so concerned about mass shootings, why are they talking about AR-15s? And as this doc guy said, he said, you may be a gun owner, but you are a gun owner with no knowledge of the law. We the people are militia. Oregon militia being necessary to secure a free state, keep people keeping barrels shall not be infringed. Oregon militia. That goes into more. Here's what it is. Let's see what right now. It said, well-regulated did not mean burdensome regulations or even chartered military units. It meant simply well-regulated, well-equipped, and well-trained, all of which can be accomplished individually or in small groups, etc., etc. And that's the thing people never really like and that's the thing, right? It was like the old school meaning of stuff, and that's the thing. It's been changed over the decades and stuff like that too, for that matter. When it came from our founding fathers to nowadays for like various, wordplay and stuff like that, or like definitions of certain things, what it is there. The whole thing of well-regulated was not even being well-trained for that matter, dude. It was basically just having a functioning firearm on your person, in your house, etc., that you could grab at a moment's notice and be able to become part of the fucking militia is what it was there. Like making sure your shit was clean and ready to go there, making sure your powder was dry, so if you needed to fire off a musket ball or whatever the case be, you could, And that's why people always talk about like keeping the powder dry and stuff like that. It's from the old school shit where they had the little fucking flasks of actual gunpowder where they would stick them into the fucking shit, prime up their whole musket, fucking throw the ball down the thing, fucking shove the fucking rod down there to like stuff it into place and stuff like that. And it was like legitimately like a couple minute process to do that stuff. And then it was basically boom, fire off one and then, get right back to it and stuff like that. That's why honestly, when you look at warfare in this country for first generation warfare during the American Revolution and stuff like that, when they had those kind of things, it's why you'd have squadrons of like 20, 30 dudes, but you'd only have like 10 or 15 of them fire off a round, because that way you could have the first guy that just fired his fucking gun be able to reload real quick then, and have the second set of guys being able to fire off their shit then and take out the enemy. And then they basically would be able to fire in like succession is what it would be then. It would be like a time period of like a couple minutes, switch offs is what it would be then. Now, granted, with something like, semi-automatics, like what I have in my hand right here is what it is, you can basically fire off a shitload of rounds in like seconds, dude, is what it is. And that's how it should be anyway, because again, if you're fighting a whole entire fucking squadron of people, dude, or whether it be that or whether it be zombie apocalypse kind of thing where you're having to kill zombies and shit, dude, you're going to want to be headshotting zombies as quick as possible then. It's not going to be fucking a situation where you're like, oh, let me go ahead and take 2 or 3 minutes to fucking reload a fucking single round, dude. I mean, hell, even modern day shotguns for that matter, that are single shot shotguns, you can literally pop a fucking round off, break the shit open real quick, throw the fucking round out, throw another round in there, and be ready to go in like a couple seconds what it is there. So, or even like double barrels for that matter that are, whether it be a side-by-side or an over-under for that matter. You can be like, ding, ding, fucking, pop them out, throw a couple new ones in there, ding, ding, go again is what it is there, man. That's one thing I like about the Olympics, actually. They're going to be starting here again pretty soon, which is, you have, it's some kind of trap shooting there. And it's actually an overweight woman. That's an American woman who has been the champion at specifically clay shooting and stuff like that for years now is what it is, man. like well over a decade now, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, like she goes crazy fast, dude. That being said, though, like honestly, that's one thing I would love to see more about, like the Olympics, or even like just like an American version of the Olympics or something like that, where it would be just like the gun Olympics or something, where it would almost be like a mix of like 3-gun, like traditional 3-gun, like modern day 3-gun stuff like that, where it'd be like rifle, pistol, shotgun, or it would be like the cowboy 3-gun, where it would be, you know, old school single action revolver, double barrel shotgun, and then some kind of rifle. Then that would be a lever action. So, which I've been watching a few of those recently, and I'll tell you what, dude, those people can really shoot. Honestly, what's crazy too is like, especially when you go with like the quick draw and stuff in those various cowboy shoots and stuff like that, man. Dude, I'll tell you what, like the dudes and the chicks both, like the way that they arch back, like they're almost arching like 100% back to where they'd be like fully like basically like that all the way back then, and they're like boom and just like pull up their gun real quick, and it's like you cannot tell me you don't have back problems after that, man. Like that is seriously looking painful there. So anyway, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, like I said though, that's and it's crazy to see how like good those people are at shooting in those events and stuff like that. I mean, especially young kids for that matter, because there's a lot of young. I was watching one, I think it was sometime last year is what it was, where it was like a female quick draw, whatever, and there was these young girls in there that were like somewhere between like 10 and 14 or something like that. And dude, you're talking about like fractions of a second they're fucking drawing and shooting, and it's like that's some fucking talent, honestly, for real. And that's the thing, right? Like you can do stuff like that, obviously, with, you know, 2A stuff, but it's not meant for that specifically, is what it is. Like that's not the original purpose of it. That's just an overall, you know, extension of it currently in 2024. Here's what it is. So anyway. And the thing is, it shouldn't matter what you want to do with your firearm or what you want to do, you know, what kind of firearm you want to have for that matter. Because in reality, we should all have everything for that matter. We should all have full auto. We should all have, you know, like I said, access to grenades, access to RPGs, access to fucking F-16s, F-15s, etc., fully loaded with missiles and everything on board, you know, including fucking machine guns and stuff like that under the wings and shit too. We should have access to tanks with full munitions, loads, everything, man. Everything military has currently, we should have access to. Hell, we should have access to the recoilless rifles that our military has access to right now. That are literally being taken out of the hands of taken out of the hands of American military units that need them, by the way, for actual engagements they're part of right now, and being given over to these dickheads in Ukraine and stuff like that, dude. They're just dying on the fucking battlefield. Speaking of which, for those who haven't seen it here in the last few days and stuff like that, I was watching something here a couple days ago now, where just to show how fucked Ukraine is right now, dude, in this whole thing, from my understanding, they might be shelling themselves right now in certain ways. Like doing like false flags in themselves in different places and stuff like that. But that being said, I'm not sure about that one. That's a supposed thing is what it is right now. Like supposedly that's what's going on right now. You know, so it might be true, might not be true. But what is true actually is there's video evidence out there of them conscripting people with Down syndrome now to be fucking fighting age males and stuff, dude. And these guys that are Down syndrome, they have no fucking clue what's going on, and they're just getting killed in the fucking trenches, dude. It's disgusting. Like, it's absolutely sickening. And how that's not war crimes and crimes against humanity, both for that matter, is just beyond me at this point, honestly. So, yeah, it really just like it pisses me off, dude. It really does to see that kind of stuff, because you're talking about people that are like, you know, basically child minds in technically an adult body and being just cannon fodder for some bullshit ass fucking conflict that would have already been over, you know, more than a year ago at this point, had we stopped fucking funding the shit more than a year ago. Like, if it wasn't for America giving a bunch of fucking money and munitions, etc. there, Russia would have been able to take the shit already and been done with it, man. So, do I really think Putin's a good guy? No, he can go fuck himself. They all can, man. So can Zelensky. Zelensky's the biggest fucking piece of shit war criminal right now, currently, over in that region. The guy's a scumbag motherfucker. And then, of course, he's over here bitching and moaning every so often about, like, I need more money now. No, you can go fuck off back to your private yacht, you fucking dickless piece of shit. That you've used to be owned by some other fucking guys, what it is there. So, which those don't know, that's basically what this motherfucker's done. He's basically had some other person purchase a yacht using various funds being taken from American citizens, taxpayers, and stuff here, and put it in this other guy's name is what it is then. So, there's more than enough evidence of that one right now. And like I said, then you got the client list coming out pretty soon is what it'll be here in the next few days for the Epstein client list, where you got Bill Clinton being directly named as one of these people. And as I was saying in Honda's chat last night, you actually have a bunch of the flight logs now people were figuring out was actually from some airport in Columbus, Ohio. Here's what it was. So, which was news to me as of literally like 2 days ago right now. So, yeah, just wild, man. Yeah, going back to that Cheryl woman's comment section though here. Gonna talk about some of the people calling her ass out here. You got this John guy saying, sorry we don't agree with your critics. The amendments, like the First Amendment, Second Amendment, were written to put limits on government power and not limits on the people power. Through history, though, those who ruled over others did so by controlling the narrative of the First Amendment and held all weapons of war, aka Second Amendment. It is clear that Democrats are pushing for control of both of those important freedoms, only way to force their agenda on the American people. What's ironic, too, is, and this is another reason why I'm wearing the MAGA hat today, is you had that piece of shit who's the lead singer of Green Day, who I guess was doing the Times, one of the pre-events at the Times Square last night is what it was for the countdown, and was singing the American Idiot song, but redid it with something like not going to be part of your MAGA agenda. And it's like, no, dude, you're part of the faggot agenda, where you're pushing all this fucking faggotry on kids and stuff like that, and all the fucking trans ideology and everything else like that. So yeah, you can go fuck yourself, Billy Joel Armstrong, douchebag, fucking scumbag, sack of shit. Fucking traitors, piece of shit to America for sure. So, anyway. Alright, let's see. What else we got here? This comment section for the Cheryl woman. They had a 2A Texan guy come back in there again saying, fallacy of that Cheryl woman's assertions. The AR-15 is designed to kill people quickly in large numbers. It wasn't designed to kill at all. It was designed to fire an intermediate cartridge, allowing combatants to carry more ammunition, and was deemed, quote, significant to incapitulate. Yeah, which makes sense. Basically what they're saying. That's the whole point. It was meant to wound, basically, is what it is, actually. Which is true, actually. Let's see here now. You got that guy again saying weapon of war. And military style are arguments based on ignorance. Lethality is not the object of military small arms. Reality is 180 degrees the opposite. If legality was the object, the armed forces wouldn't use FMJ bullets or intermediate cartridges. And then he basically put here about what the shit does, what it is there. And that's the thing, right? Like, this was 100 very interesting, too, by the way. You have people always bitching about, like, weapon of war this, weapon of war that. It's like, y'all realize, like, 30-06 M1 Garands and stuff like that back in the day were weapons of war, right? And they're all wood furniture and shit, dude. Hell, even most of the Gaunts in, like, 7.62 54R, I think is what it is, right? I want to say that's what the cartridges for that one. Those were fucking used as weapons of war back in the day, man. And that was a bolt-action rifle, for God's sakes. Then, of course, you had the M1 carbine that was also a wood furniture thing. And that's the thing, right? What's very interesting to me, too, is that you have all these people that want to infringe upon rights and stuff like that are like, oh, this rifle that we want to ban is just black and scary. Just black and scary. It's like, interesting. Isn't it, though? So, yeah, it's just a bunch of scumbaggers, what it is, man, these fucking people. So, anyway. Yeah, then you got some other idiot saying it's the guns. No, it's the gun grabbers, actually. That's the real truth of the matter. Jesus fucking Christ. I'm going to call out this woman by name, actually, on this one. This dumb bitch that went by JT, whose bio is liberal Democrat, retired educator. That explains a lot. JJ to my grandkids. Blah, blah, blah. Dem 1. Okay. Yeah, her stupid ass fucking meme was, Republicans are bought and paid for by the NRA. They'll make up anything and every ridiculous excuse instead of admitting it's the fucking guns. I can assure you, stupid fucking cunt, I am not, in fact, paid for by the NRA. I wish I was, actually, because we would actually have some fucking money for the Ohio Patriot Education Network, so we could actually fund lawsuits, etc. But no, if anything, I'm against the fucking NRA because they steal money out of my goddamn pocket entirely, bitch. Not to mention they've sat here and actually fucked over my rights at the state level here in Ohio when they'll come in literally the day that pro-2A legislation is passing over General Assembly to the governor's desk and be like, oh, let's make sure that we can get some state rep we buy off at that point to fucking shove in some BS garbage into it like they did with the fucking constitutional carry here a couple years, almost 2 years ago now, where they're like, oh, let's put Terry stops in this fucking thing. Or at the very end, and it was never in the begin with, and they're like, okay, cool. And the bullshit that Terry stop things is it was just a justification for them to basically use tinted windows to fuck up people's rights is what it was, man. And it's the same exact garbage the NRA does all the time. There's a reason for it too, by the way. Because they know, as a gun lobby, the only way for them to make money and remain in business is to basically be like, well, we're fighting for your rights in some capacity. Except they're really not. They're trying to infringe upon your shit too, just to a lesser extent, so they can keep the fucking, cash cow flowing is what it is there, man. But it's even worse with the anti-gunners is what it is, dude, like the fucking Giffords of the world, the Bloombergs of the world, etc., because they're the ones that will openly advocate for disarmament, yet meanwhile, they're going to be the first ones at the fucking wall when the shit goes down, dude. Like, when things go hot in this country, it's not going to be people like me who are actually armed that are going to be the first ones killed by all these fucking fighting age males from, Islamic nations and stuff like that. Dude, it's going to be these dumb fuckers and MDA, etc., dude. They're going to be the ones put against the fucking wall and have their fucking brains blown out all across the fucking stage and shit like that. Because they're going to be the ones disarmed, because they disarm themselves is what it is there. And like I've said many, many times on this last year and stuff like that, I've had conversations with these leftist types and stuff like that in the past, man. And these people that are like sort of anti-gun or just don't like guns is what it is there. And some of them are freely admitted to me at that point. They're like, oh yeah, the reason I don't want to have a gun is because I don't trust myself with it is what it is. And that's what it is in many cases, dude. It's these people that don't trust themselves to be armed, so they think that everybody should be disarmed is what it is. And that's not the case at all. It's like, hey, if you don't want to be armed, that's fine. Like if you think it's scary to be armed or whatever the case be, because you think you're going to use it against yourself or something like that, the case somehow, it's going to accidentally shoot you or whatever the case be. Okay, cool. You're scared, obviously. You need to get over that is what it is. But stop trying to infringe upon my rights and everybody else's rights for that matter. For real. So, anyway. Then, of course, you got some other jackass lefty memes here, like this Greg idiot here saying, vote Democrat, ban all sales of all assault weapons. No such thing, by the way. They are only made for murder. No, actually, modern sporting rifles like the AR-15, AK-47, etc. are made to literally go to war against enemies, both foreign and domestic, specifically tyrants in America, and the fucking illegals that they're importing to our country is what it is, bitches. So go fuck yourself, douche. Simple as, man. Simple as that. And of course, she's got a bunch of idiots saying, opinions haven't changed, it's still the guns. Yeah, y'all are just uninformed retards, is what it is, for real. God, people are stupid as fuck. This one's actually kind of funny. This person here is saying, who would want an AR-15 when we can have belt fed? So, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, the problem with belt fed, though, is that it's just that, you know, it's fed by the belt of ammunition. And the thing about that is, too, it's also, because it is more full auto and stuff, there's a chance for it to actually hang up, and you'd have to, like, you know, pop it open and do a bunch of stuff like that to, like, unjam it and shit like that then. I mean, it can be good for some things. Like, honestly, like, and there's a reason, by the way, like how that's strung up like that, where it's all around like a tree stump or whatever there. There's a reason why when you have stuff that's in our military right now, like I think it's the M240, if I'm not mistaken, where they have like that big old like box thing for it. So you can actually like put like a whole bunch of rounds into it is what it is there, and have it be like still belt fed into the actual side of it is what it is there. And it's a much better design then, because you don't have it just random ammo just hanging off of it is what it is then. That can get snagged up on something while it's being, you know, shot through and stuff like that. So, yeah, if we're talking about something like that, where you'd actually have like, you know, like an actual like big like box hanger thing for it to like sit in and stuff like that, maybe we won't belt fed actually, but like I would say not in that configuration though, just because it's like more cumbersome and shit. Like honestly, truthfully, and especially considering that's, you know, let me go back and look at that again now, because I was trying to figure out like a round count on that actually, what they had for that belt fed there. Yeah, I'd say there's probably at least 100 rounds there, give or take, or damn close to it. What we see in the picture there. So yeah, whenever they have that, or wherever they have like, you know, a 50 round drum or something on my gun, or wherever they have like, you know, a bunch of 30 round mags and stuff like that in a, you know, carrier and stuff like that. And honestly, I'd rather have that, honestly, personally, where it would be, you know, a bunch of fucking like 30 round, 40 round, 60 round, whatever it is there in my my mag carrier then, or the tactical backpack for that matter too as well on that one. So, because the thing at the end of the day is, man, it's like, and especially we're talking about like select fire firearms and stuff like that, you can basically have like, you know, the ability to have that, you know, third hole and like the switch and stuff, where it would be either 3-round burst or full auto. And what's interesting too, by the way, is that, and this is kind of interesting too, for that matter, when you go back to the whole like anti-gunner narrative of like, oh, you know, AR-15s are just, you know, or like quote unquote weapons of war and stuff like that. Because the thing is, M16s that they use, or what is it? Yeah, M16 or what is it now? I'm trying to think of the actual thing is now. There's another M4. That's what it is. That's what the military actually uses right now. The difference there is that you have the ability to go full auto 3-round burst, but in many cases they do go semi-auto is what it is there, because you're not blowing through ammunition as fast as what it is there. And that's the thing, like if you had to go like full auto 3-round burst versus like, you know, again, like a lot of enemies or whatever the case be, like, yeah, fucking spray and pray is what it is, dude. But the thing is, like, if you're gonna want like accuracy shots, you're just gonna want to have that shit on semi-auto anyway, is what it is, so that way you can take like, you know, a 50-yard, 100-yard, 200-yard, whatever it is, you know, shot there is what it is. And it's also why, for that same vein of things, when you're talking about, you know, specialized units in the military and stuff like that, it's why you have guys that don't even use that kind of cartridge. They'll use something bigger is what it is. They'll use like 338 Lapua or something like that, and like some kind of a bolt action firearm. And those are the guys that are the fucking sniper dudes that are usually like Overwatch and shit. Well, where they will either be like the Overwatch sniper guys or whatever the case be, or they'll be legitimately in some fucking, you know, specifically I've seen this over the years. What it was during the after we invaded Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever it was there in the early 2000s, stuff like that. It was a famous shot actually, where it was some dude who was using 338 and he had gone up there and he was trying to take out, it was basically like a Islamic terrorist sniper guy in like one of the other buildings or whatever, who was firing on a bunch of Americans there. And eventually he was like dialing up his scope and shit like that to like different things or whatever. And he was trying to figure out like which way to do it, fuck it, and like yank the motherfucker like all the way around in like a bunch of different places, and like put the gun over this way is what it was, and was like boom. And because of the trajectory and stuff like that of the bullet, it somehow was fired off in this direction but then it started to curve like this, and boom, right through the fucking forehead of this dude, like a couple hundred yards away is what it was. So, actually, I think it was over a mile away now I'm thinking about it. But yeah, that's the crazy thing though, right? Like you can have like way more powerful guns than that, dude, is what it is there. And it's also why when you look at a lot of American snipers in this country that are in, various sniper units and stuff like that in our military is what it is there, they'll have specialized guns like that are either in 338 Lapua or some other kind of caliber they're coming up with now is what it is now. So, there's been other ones like that are higher, even higher, caliber choices and stuff like that. Because again, if you're just being a sniper, you don't have to carry a shitload of ammo and stuff like that. You don't have to carry like X amount is what it is then. Versus if you're just like some ground soldier or whatever the case be, or want to have a full kit, it's what it is then. And actually, in many cases, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of what they'll use for like basic Overwatch, you'll have the guys on the ground with the M16s, M4s, etc. And then you'll have some dude on the rooftop or whatever it is that has something in 308 is what it is there. Where it'll be like a semi-auto 308 is what it is then. Or full auto 308 then is what it is. Which the equivalent to that would be AR-10s now is what it is there. So, which for me personally, would I rather have an AR-15 or AR-10, honestly? I would probably go with an AR-15, honestly, if I was going to, have to deal with people and stuff like that, like some kind of a civilian armament or whatever the case be then. Because in that situation, you'd be able to carry more is what it is then. Now, granted, if we're talking about military style is what it is there, whatever they have an M4, M16, or whatever they have, whatever the other guy in Overwatch is carrying in a 308 caliber, probably have the M16 or M4 actually, just because of the fact that, again, you can carry more rounds. You have pretty much just as good at accuracy at X amount of, yardage and stuff like that. And if engagements happen, if you have the squad of guys around you and stuff, you have, 5, 6, 8, 10 guys, whatever it is there with you, that if somebody's out of a mag or whatever the case be, or they need a mag change or whatever the case be, and they're like, oh, I'm out of ammo or whatever, you can have somebody just toss them a fucking mag then. It's why if we ever go to actual war here with the illegals coming into our country right now, the one thing you don't want to be is the guy carrying an AK-47 in a group of dudes with AR-15 is what it is, dude. Because unless you have like multiple fucking kits of 7.62x39 on your ass, you're not getting a fucking mag change from anybody else, dude, is what it is. Like, if you need an extra mag from somebody, like, good fucking luck to you, buddy. You better run your ass out like 10, 15 yards there and pick up somebody's battlefield pickup that's in the AR-15 or whatever the case be, man, because yeah, you're not getting a fucking mag change there, dude, with your fucking AK. So you're not being able to be resupplied by the rest of your unit is what it is there. So anyway, but yeah, and that's one thing I have seen quite a bit of. It seems like with stupid people is what it is in this country. Well, they'll be like, oh, let me go ahead and go out there and do like sort of a show, it's almost like I'm just doing like a show of force and basically just like, look what I have kind of thing is what it is there. Or you'll have these like drag queen story hour things, whatever the case be. Last year is what it was, and then you'll have like people walk out there and be like all armed up is what it is there, and be like, yeah, we oppose this or whatever the case be. And it's always like the one guy that has like an AK or an AK variant, and literally everybody else has, AR-15s or some kind of variant of that of the case then. So yeah, it's just sort of silly, man. And the only thing I can think is it's these people that, like us, that we've talked about in many of these chats over the years and stuff like that now. I think Duke's been the one that's talked about most, actually, which is basically you had, at some point in this country's history in the last, 20 years or so before all Ukraine and shit like that popped off as what it was, you could actually buy into 7.6239 much cheaper than you could 5.56 or 2.23 is what it was. And it makes sense to stockpile that shit is what it was at the time, obviously, when it was super duper cheap is what it was, and like, the dirt cheap Russian ammo and stuff like that. But of course, because of what's going on over there in Ukraine and Russia now, that's all dried up and it's now become, dollars around pretty much is what it is there. And obviously at the same time you have, your modern AK-47 platforms that are like beginning prices. And this was as of a couple years ago. I saw that shit even before everything popped off over there overseas is what it was. It was like $700-800 for one of those things, dude. Whereas legitimately, this is all pre-2020, by the way, I could go to some other place like that, one of your online sites or what it was, And you could build a fucking AR for like $350, dude. So you could essentially have like 2 ARs for the price of 1 AK is what it was. And then you'd have like an extra $100 or whatever to go, you know, toss out there for, you know, the transfer fees or whatever the case be there. Or even that same kind of things, not even the transfer fees, but like, you know, let's go ahead and say like the price overall of the whole thing. You could go buy some mags for each one of the guns, is what it would be then. And you could essentially like kit out 2 people for a decent price, is what it is then, man. Which, looking back at that time period of history, I really wish I had a bunch of money back then, because I'll tell you what, dude, if I could go back to like 2018, 2019, dude, I would have bought so fucking many of those rifles. And I wouldn't just have this one here is what it is right now. Like, I'd have like several in the house, and they wouldn't all be in 5.56 or 223 or whatever the case be. Some of them would actually be in like other calibers for the uppers, like specifically have a 350 Legends would it be then. Specifically so I could use it for deer hunting is what it would be then. Because obviously in Ohio you have these straight wall cartridges, which are so fucking stupid because again, 223, 5.56 is pretty much the same goddamn thing. It's just difference between that and 350 Legends is that you have the fucking blown out cartridge, but you have a larger bullet is what it is then. So yeah, it's just dumb. Just like 450 Bushmaster for that matter, you have a slightly more powerful cartridge, but it's still in the air platform is what it is there. So anyway, yeah, it just takes different uppers what it would be then. And I've talked about that before with some of the guys back in the day, like people like Two Live Moves, what it is, it has one of those in Michigan there. He actually told me a good story some years ago, which is he was deer hunting up there in the peninsula of Michigan there for, I forget what year it was, because he was talking about his AR and 450 Bushmaster is what it was there. And I was like, oh, you ever take anything with that? And he's like, yeah. And then he told me the story about this deer he saw at one point that was I forget what he said, it was like 50 yards or so out, give or take, from where he was at. And he, you know, legitimately popped off a round at it, and it, you know, just dropped pretty much. They went, and this goes to show the difference between obviously, you know, caliber choices and stuff like that too. Between like intermediate cartridges like 5.56 and like something like a 450 Bushmaster, what it is there. Where the 5.56 would probably just leave a hole in you. This motherfucker, where he shot this deer at was like pretty much right in the neck. And he said when they found it, it was like this. Like its head was legitimately like going backwards and like almost flopping off because there was like a little piece of fucking spinal cord right there. But yeah, that larger cartridge just fucking annihilated its fucking neck entirely. And that's one reason why it dropped so fast, is because it was just dead on impact is what it was there. So, and that's the thing. And the one problem I have with these different states like Ohio or Michigan or whatever the case be, or straight wall cartridge only states is what it is there for hunting, of specifically deer and stuff like that. You actually have a more powerful cartridge that potentially in these straight walled calibers could actually overpenetrate more than if somebody just simply used a fucking 5.56 or a 223 or whatever the case be, man. Because that's the one thing. I could legitimately take this gun that I have right here out right now in my backyard and go hunt for a coyote or wild boar or anything else like that in the state of Ohio. Like any of those big feral game like that. But yet if I want to go deer hunting, obviously restricted to certain time periods of the year is what it is here. But I would then have to go get a different upper in a different caliber to go do that. It's so fucking dumb, dude. It makes no logical sense whatsoever, man. And again, it's just a way for people to fuck you over is what it is. It's just a way for the government to bend you over and infringe on your rights is what it really is at the end of the day. So, anywho. Let's see, where the fuck was I at now? Okay, you had this guy here talking about Second Amendment here by James Madison is what it was. Ratification here says Second Amendment ratified in 1791 was proposed by Founding Father James Madison to allow the creation of civilian forces that can counteract a tyrannical federal government. The anti-federalists believe that a centralized standing military established by the Constitutional Convention gave the federal government too much power and potential for violent opposition. Exactly, dude. And that's exactly why you have what we have now, which is where you got Dick Durbin and company trying to give a bunch of fucking illegals in this country, a bunch of literal Islamic terrorists and Chinese foreign nationals that guarantee are Chinese fucking military in disguise, the ability to become American citizens through joining the U.S. military. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's so nonsensical retardation bullshit. And it's like, it really does make you wonder, honestly, sometimes, like, just how fucking crazy this country is going to become in 2024 here. And like I said, my prediction right now, we are 171 days away from hot civil war right now of some kind, whether it be civil war, whether it be color revolution, whether it be tribal warfare, whatever the case be. And I think we're even faster than that, for that matter, away from gangs, food gangs specifically is what it would be then, which would be, my prediction for that one would basically be by June 1st of this year, which is about 160-ish days, give or take, from now. I believe you're going to see food gangs as long as inflation keeps kicking up the way it is right now. I believe by summer of this year, you're going to see some kind of a food gang happen where it might not be everywhere, but it'll definitely be localized Democrat major cities in this country where you'll see people that will do exactly what they're doing in California, New York, and stuff like that right now, where they're just walking in and just stealing a bunch of shit. But in this case, it would be targeted robberies of American citizens simply just walking out of a grocery store with a cart full of shit. And you're just going to have people pull up in a van or a truck or whatever the case be, usually probably most likely stolen vehicle at that point. And they're just going to grab the whole cart and just toss the whole fucking cart in the vehicle is what it is there, and just drive off with the shit then. And they'll be pulling guns at the people before they do is what it is there. So, and if that be the case and we go down that fucking timeline of events, dude, like, yeah, this is why you're going to be wanting to walk in armed to places everywhere, and not armed in the way where you would be able to see what you have on you. I'm talking about constitutional carry or concealed carry is what it is then. Where it's like, no, you don't want to have open carry displays what it is, man. You want to have people not knowing what the fuck you have until the last second what it is that you got to use it would be then. So anyway, that being said, we've been going for almost 2 hours here. I didn't expect it to be this long, but it was a good chat, I think. And I'm getting pretty tired, so I'm probably gonna take a nap here in a little bit. I also got some stuff I gotta go do for a couple things. Oh shit, game related. So I think my plan right now for the rest of the day is I'm gonna go probably just take a nap actually for a few hours. So it'll be here, which is not really a nap. It's just me going to sleep for X amount of time. Then it'll be for like the next 3 or 4 hours probably, and then waking up about 6:30, 7 o'clock tonight. Then it'll be doing some stuff and then getting ready and watching NEA's first chat of 2024. And then, of course, we'll be back for Honda's chat for the next Taco Tuesday for his first chat of 2024 then. And then from there, we'll basically be back on this channel. I don't know if we'll be back on Wednesday or not. I'm thinking about doing something on Wednesday, but I'm not sure right now. It depends. If nothing else, I will guarantee, as far as I can right now, Buckshot Thursday will become official this week is what it is. And that'll be the first one of 2024 then. And then we'll actually do the first Freedom Friday 2024 this coming Friday then. So, and then next week, which will be legitimately 9 days from now, which will be next Wednesday, I will officially be celebrating my 39th birthday. So, yay me. I got some stuff I got to do that day with some extended family. So, I don't know exactly what I'll be doing that day or whatever the case be. We might just do a stream that night, actually, if that be the case then, which will basically just be me bullshitting or whatever then. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I never thought at the age of 39 I wouldn't be a father, honestly. I assume by this point in my life I'd actually be a father of at least a couple kids right now. So it sucks to know that I'm not right now, honestly. And it would be nice to be able to change that here in 2024 is what it is. But with the way that's the one thing though, right? Like in that same vein of things, I'm almost glad I'm not currently a parent, just because of the fact that, with the way things are going and how it's going to be a situation of having to fight, at some point here, I would not want to be the person in a situation where you have to fight, but yet you have small children that you'd pretty much have to put behind a something and like protect their asses or whatever the case be then. Because I could see easily a lot of parents, honestly, of like young kids, toddlers, etc. there, where you would just basically take the kid and you would put them, like you'd have like your kit or whatever then, where it's like your body armor, whatever you call it there, and you'd pretty much have it be a situation where you would stuff them somehow into your jacket or whatever the hell you're wearing at the time, and have them protected right behind your plates or whatever it is there. Or even in that same vein of things, it might be something where they're like strapped to your back and it's like the back plate protecting their ass or whatever the case be then. So, because I don't see it going well otherwise, man. And even in that vein of things as well, as for that matter, it's like, yeah, people with young kids right now, man. My best advice to them would be have a backup plan currently in place right now, man, and make sure that you have the ability to basically have your kids be protected by somebody else then while you're having to go off and do whatever then. Because, yeah, I'd hate to think about that right now, honestly, having to do something like that would have the kid in like a dangerous situation, but that's the only way I can protect their ass legitimately is what it is there. Versus, people like Honda who have older children who they're more than capable right now protecting themselves is what it is, and being able to pick up a gun and stuff like that, and be armed up and kitted up and everything else like that then. So, and even for some of these people that have like 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids and stuff like that, dude, like you could easily arm those kids too for that matter right now, and have like kits for them and stuff like that. It's just a matter of training those kids properly is what it is there. So, but yeah, you could easily have them kids pick up and take up arms if need be, but you sure as shit can't do that with somebody that's like, a year old, 2 years old, a couple years old, whatever it is, 5 years old maybe, because they don't know, man. And honestly, they'd be more dangerous with the thing is what it is though, because they're not trained properly by the parent or guardian or whatever it is there. So anyway, I wouldn't even want to put that burden on a small child either, for that matter. Like it would, because obviously those people, the problem with kids like that, man, that age is that you really can't comprehend. They can sort of comprehend some of it, but like they could probably get like the basic knowledge of stuff, but it's not something where you want to like be like, oh, here you go, kid, and just first of all expect them to actually be able to hold something that's fairly heavy for their, small bones and stuff like that is what it is there, and their small body to be able to take care of and stuff like that. Versus, somebody that is like a few years older and actually has more muscle mass and things like that is what it is then. That could be able to hold the shit properly is what it is then. So, if anything, those would be the kids that would be, like if we're going back to like Walking, because I do like to do Walking Dead references obviously every so often. Going back to the one season of Walking Dead where you had, I want to say it was the end of like mid-4, something like that, mid-season 4, somewhere in there, where you had Lizzie and her sister's characters, and those kids were only like, I think maybe 8 or 9, maybe 10 at most or something like that. And they were using handguns, obviously. Like they couldn't hold rifles because they didn't have enough muscle mass is what it was there. But yeah, they had like handguns is what it was. And even with the handgun, it wasn't like, a single finger in the trigger. Like they were doing like double fingers into the fucking trigger guard there to be able to pull the trigger properly to have enough strength to do so is what it was. So yeah, like that's the only thing about that, man. If you're going to arm like, somebody like that, it'll be like, you're going to want to know what those kids' capability is. And you're going to want to, have it be appropriate is what it is then, to where if they would need to have like an AR pistol or something like that, maybe even to be able to like hold it properly or whatever the case be, then that's what they need to have is what it is then, versus like an actual rifle or whatever then. So, but anyway, I don't know, man. I just look for there to be scary times ahead in this country, honestly. And what's even crazier is I think depending on how bad our country goes is what it is, dude, and how bad things actually get, If we're talking about like total collapse scenario, like the one thing you're going to see a lot of that people aren't going to realize, man, not going to be able to fight against it for a lot of the, mental capabilities, what it is there, is you're going to see gangs of kids that are going to be armed or ready to kill adults is what it is, man. And I'm talking about like young children, like legitimately like a 6-7-year-old kid with a fucking shotgun or something like that, or an AR, whatever the case be, or even just like a 10-year-old girl or a young boy or whatever the case be that just has a shit ready to roll, man, is what it is there. It's like going back to what we talked about earlier on in the episode with Mike Durant and Black Hawk Down and stuff like that. If you actually watch the Black Hawk Down movie, there's a scene in it where it's two dudes, and I think the one was supposed to be the father or the older brother. The other one is what it was. And you had the younger of the two who was like, I don't know, like 8, 10, 12, something like that, depending, because it's hard to tell because, obviously those people are malnutrition and stuff like that is what it is. But yeah, you had this kid fully kitted out is what it was, man. And he was ready to fucking go to war is what it was, man, at that young age. And it ended up being a situation where he ended up killing his own fucking sibling then, or his family member, or whatever it was to him then. Not sure if it was sibling or father, whatever the case be to him then. Because they were dumb and they were crossfiring each other is what it was, dude. And that's another thing too, man. Like, don't be in somebody's crosshairs for God's sakes. Like, make sure you're not fucking like, in a situation where if you both had to fire at like one target in between the two of you, like, don't be the dumbass that if that target like drops down, you're going to be the one getting shot in the fucking head or something like that, dude, for real. Or the chest or anything else for that matter. So, but yeah, I don't know. People are just dumb is what it is, man. But anyway, that being said, that's pretty much what we're at for the day, though. Like I said, I'll be back at some point here in the future for other streams for this coming week is what it'll be, though. And other than that, though, it's been a good one. 2023 was one hell of a year so far, I believe. Or wasn't one hell of a year, looking, retrospective is what it is here. And so far, 2024 is a hell of a year, too, for that matter, dude. Like, just we're not even a day into it yet. It's fucking, you got tsunamis and fucking earthquakes and shit in Japan. You got people being all kinds of dumb motherfuckers everywhere. You got fucking mass shootings in California. You got fucking all kinds of crazy ass shit. You got dumbasses doing celebratory gunfire all last night in different major cities across this country. Even though it's super illegal to do that stuff because you're obviously going to hit an unintended target because what goes up must come down. So I'm sure there's a bunch of dead kids today is what it is in random houses and shit like that had a bullet come through their fucking window or something like that from some dumbass 2-3 blocks away is what it is there. So, or some adult or whatever the case be in the ER that has like a fucking shoulder injury or something like that now because some fucking retard decided to pull out a fucking Glock with a switch on it. That was a total fucking felon at that point. Was like, and just fucking fired off into the air, whatever the case being. It was all, and then it's like a couple blocks later, back down. So, yeah, people are dumb fucks, dude, is what it is entirely. So, and it also needs to be the same set for that matter of people. And I'll leave it at that right now. So, anyway, but yeah, that being said, check the comments here, see if anybody say anything different. Okay. Oh, that was not the one I was looking for. It's this one right here. Yep, NRA is a bunch of outdated fudge. Yes, they are. And they're led by one of the biggest dipshits of all, which is Wayne LaPierre. So, anyway, that guy is the biggest scumbag of all right now, dude. You want to talk about infringers? Like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, that being said, like I said, that's pretty much where we're at for the day, though. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will be back, like I said, not on this channel for probably a couple of days, but I will be on eHonda's stream tomorrow night for 2A Taco Tuesday as long as it goes as planned. Hopefully his issues with his throat and lung area and stuff like that is better now. Who knows what that is? He said he might have white lung. I don't know what it is, man. Could be RSV, could be fucking just pneumonia or something for all the fuck we know. Or some like crazy variation of pneumonia or something now is what it is. But hopefully he's feeling better though. because he was not sounding great last night. He was definitely having a lot of coughing fits during that stream. So hopefully he feels better tonight, and then obviously tomorrow as well for that matter. But you know, that's the last thing you want to be is sick during what's coming, man, for real. Because I can tell you right now, a couple years ago, man, when I had the koofity doofity at the end of Christmas time in 2021 there, and then into 2022 there, man, it was not a fun time at all. And I'll tell you what, if something had happened then, when I was basically bedridden for like 2 weeks is what it was there, like, whew, man, it would not have been good for me. Because I was to the point right then, I was like, I'm on, like, I felt like I was on death's door, honestly, back then. And it's like, yeah, I'd hate to see that happen again, is what it is, man. For anybody that's, you know, one of the people is what it is. And obviously, as one of our commenters here in the comment section was mentioning last night on the stream, on his chat, was, you know, who's to say if we're going to have shit go south or whatever the case be, because we're so spread out is what it is right now. So, yeah, which is a great reason, by the way, to have, you know, local backup is what it is there, and have the ability to, you know, have contacts with other people and stuff like that. If nothing else, like, you might not be directly part of a group or whatever the case be, but you would have, like, you know, a group of people that you could rely upon. If something does happen, you could just simply, you know, slide into it or something like that kind of deal is what it is there, and not be kind of a lone wolf is what it is then. Because unfortunately, like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of lone wolves that do a lot of damage and stuff when shit goes south in this country. But in the long run, you got to sleep sometime, man. You got to eat sometime. You know, you don't have the ability to go 24/7, 365 Terminator style. So eventually it's going to catch up with you. And if you don't have a group to rely upon where you can do, like, you know, sleep in shifts kind of thing, or, you know, even eating meals and shifts and stuff like that, you're not going to be in a good situation at all. So, and that's one thing that a lot of these fucking fighting age males coming into our country right now have, is what it is. They have the group of people with them, is what it is there. Whether it be all their Islamic terrorist buddies or all their Chinese foreign national buddies, whatever the case be, is they have others to rely upon, is what it is there. Now, granted, hopefully they don't have a good enough shot, is what it is there, man. Hopefully they shoot for shit, is what it is there. But, you know, I don't know, man. Like, things are not going to be good in 2024 here. And I think, optimistically speaking, we are in for a roller coaster ride going into this election cycle, if we even have an election cycle at all for that matter. So, and I've said it before in 2023, man. If you live in a state with a shitty governor, get the fuck out right now, dude, and move to a state with a better one, because it might be a situation where if we don't have elections this year, man, you might be stuck with whatever governor you have right now, is what it is, man. If you have election cycles going on currently. So, yeah, it's time to make sure that you are prepared for what is to come, and you can actually be able to prep with others and stuff like that of like-minded mindsets, and actually have people there in a, you know, area with you locally, that if something does kick off, you can actually simply, you know, have a radio for them or something else for that matter, some kind of communication device, nothing else, just run to their asses and be like, hey, what's going on? You know, because I could easily see something like, you know, as much as I don't like that shitty remake Red Dawn, because it is not really Red Dawn at all. It's just, you know, Hollywood rendition bullshit is what it is there with the same name. The one thing that movie did show was how quickly things can kick off when you have, you know, fucking troops flying into the skies, what it is there, man, and dropping down into your civilian areas there. And you had the, you know, the two brothers basically jump in their truck and try to head for the hills kind of thing is what it was there, and find their father. And then as soon as, like, their father was literally finding them is what it was, and intersected or whatever there. And his first thing to them was, stay on my ass, and then fucking drove in some direction, and they drove right behind his ass, what it was there. So, yeah, and that's what's going to happen, obviously. I think a lot in many cases is you'll have people like that is what it is, where it's like, yeah, you know, it'll be like a small caravan of people or whatever then, going to wherever, and then, you know, hopefully succeeding is what it is then. So, Actually, to be fair, if you want to check out something that's not the movie Red Dawn, but is actually like a Red Dawn-ish movie, not in America, obviously. Tomorrow, when the war began, is a great film. It's an Australian version of Red Dawn. It's from the night, I believe it's like 2000 something ish, 8, 9, someplace in there. Maybe, I believe is what it is. Let me go check on that one real quick to confirm. Actually, because I know it was from 2000 someplace in there. I'm not sure exactly what the actual year was though, but yeah, it was a great movie though. Let me see here. 2010, actually. I was wrong. So this will be 14 years now that it'll be out for. But yeah, it's basically go ahead and pull up the Wikipedia here for it. This right here, which isn't going any larger than that, but yeah, it's basically 2010 Australian action film, war crime film, written and directed by some person, based on the 1993 novel the same name. I didn't realize that part of it. It was actually based on a novel. That's interesting. So yeah, it's a pretty good movie actually. And then it had Phoebe Talkin in it before she was really known and famous and stuff for the what was it, the originals and stuff like that. That's what she was in back in the day. There's a couple other people in this movie that aren't really like known actors, but they're semi-known is what it is there. But yeah, it's a pretty good movie though, is what it is. Like I said, and it's basically you have the gist of it is basically a Chinese invasion into Australia, and then it going like full Red Dawn is what it is then, and you have a bunch of these teenage kids basically fighting back and doing what needs to be done and taking out like Chinese military is what it is there to fucking take their shit and use their equipment against them is what it is then. So, but yeah, it's a fairly good flick. I would have actually liked to see more of it, to be honest with you, like where it went from being a movie, because the way it ends obviously is like on this cliffhanger ending kind of thing. What it is there, to where it's like, and that's the general gist of it is why it's called Tomorrow When the War Begun, because of the fact that you basically have it leading up to where the war is actually starting is what it is there, of them dealing with whatever there and trying to like cut off supply lines and shit. And then it's basically from there is when you're going to have like the real fighting begin is what it is there. So yeah, I could easily see it being turned. I could see it even like, like I said, like 14 years later now, somebody doing like a remake of that into like an actual TV series or something like that. It's like 4, 5, 6 seasons long or something. And it could be pretty good actually if you did it right and stuff. Now, granted, you couldn't obviously get the same actors now because they'd be like way, way older now, and it wouldn't really be what you call it. You have to get like a new whole cast and crew of people and stuff like that. So, which is not hard to do, honestly. It's just being able to actually legitimately cast the right people and stuff like that is what it'd be then. So, but yeah, like I said though, it's a fairly good movie though, and it's more recent obviously than compared to Red Dawn from the 1980s is what it is there. So, which in of itself is still a great movie, obviously. The 2012 fucking North Korean gay ass version is stupid as fuck though, because it's not even that at all, dude. It should have been called like North Korea the film or something. So, because it's not Red Dawn, man. It could easily be like redone and be like called like Seattle War or something like that. That's what it should have been called actually or something. But yeah, like I said, just not like there's bits and pieces that are decent enough, but then it's like there's like a lot of other crap in there that's just Hollywood being a bunch of dicks is what it is, dude. And like typical Hollywood assholery is what it is, man. Like trying to shit on American tradition and stuff like that is what it is there, and like Americana and everything else like that. Whereas the 80s version is just like, nah, fuck you. Like this is 1980s, bitch. This is how we live here. So, plus you can't go wrong with Patrick Swayze. That dude was a fucking hardcore, awesome ass actor guy. And it's unfortunate that he lost his battle with pancreatic cancer some years back now. His brother, though, I'll tell you what, man, he actually has a brother that looks almost exactly like him still. I forget what that dude's name is offhand, but he's done a bunch of different like B-list and C-list movies and stuff over the years and TV series and stuff like that as well. But yeah, Swayze was legit as fuck, man. He's one of the many actors I actually missed quite a bit, actually, because he was such a good actor and just like a leading star really is what it was there. So, And plus, he seemed very based, too, for that matter, when it came to just, not really dealing with all the bullshit is what it is there, and just being like, no, I'm going to be my own person kind of thing is what it is there, and like individuality and kind of things like that's what it is there. And plus, as far as I'm aware, he never actually shed on the Second Amendment, so that's a big plus, obviously, because too many of these Hollywood actors, like your Matt Damon types, etc., will sit there and be like, I'm going to go be Jason Bourne and make fucking tens of millions of dollars and most of my fortune on this fucking set of movies, and then I'm going to turn around and show the Second Amendment that made me all my fucking money. Like, fuck y'all, dude, seriously. And that's the problem with so many of these hypocrite motherfuckers like that. And I'm just so sick and tired of all of them, dude. Just like this Cheryl woman here is what it is. It's like, just because you're a gun owner doesn't mean you're a Second Amendment advocate or activist or whatever the case be, or a constitutionalist or anything else for that matter, lady. Which is exactly what I am is what it is. Exactly why I created the Hypocrite Education Network. Exactly why I created Ohioans for Firearms Freedom was what it was. A couple years back now. So... anyway, this June, we will actually be celebrating our second anniversary for the network. We will officially be 2 years in for that, and we'll be actually 3 years for Ohioans for Firearms Freedom then. So both of those will be on Constitutional Carry Day, which was the day that Ohio's Constitutional Carry became a thing in June. So... which was June 13th, 2022. So, which ironically enough would be 5 days before our Civil War prediction is what it is there. So, we might be able to just celebrate shit right before the fucking shit kicks off. That's what it is, man. So, anyway. But, yeah, other than that, though, that's where we're at for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And I will be back, like I said, probably Wednesday or Thursday. Give or take. I'm not sure about Wednesday 100%, but I know I'll be back on Thursday for sure, though. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night on Honda's channel, though, for 2A Taco Tuesday. And I'll probably be just chilling out on in Matt's comment section tonight, if that'll be the case then. Doing whatever then. Or just watching his stream or whatever then, if that'll be the case, though. But, yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, though, man. Like I said, hopefully Japan is okay after today and their quake there is what it is, and hopefully we can actually do something to stop the foreign invasion at our southern border and northern border, for that matter, too, as well, in this country, man, because I think we're going to get it from both sides of what it is in the coming year, where it's, you got it coming from the top and from the bottom then. So... and obviously that's never a good thing, man, because you don't want to get spit roasted, bro. You really don't, honestly. Unless you're into that kind of shit, and that's on you. But that's a different story altogether is what it is. But, that's not my forte, obviously. And it's not many other people's for that matter either. But, yeah, it's the whole thing, man. But, like I said, though, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And... I will be back here in a couple days for some other stuff. Have a good one, y'all. Have a very happy new year. And keep the powder dry, man, because you never know when you're going to need it. And it's as simple as that, really. Later, y'all.